Good morning, everybody. This is Meridoc, also sometimes called Evan, and joining me today is my buddy Oz, also called
Oz.
Great. So today we're going to be starting up a new project. So I watch a lot of YouTube. I spend a lot of time surfing the interwebs, and I find podcasts to be one of my favorite ways to just kill time while I'm doing that. And so I thought, you know what? I love video games. Oz very much loves video games.
I do.
And so I thought to myself, we should do a podcast. We should just talk about video games that we mutually love or hate. And so I think today we're going to start off with something that the two of us have talked about for many, 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 many years. The Final Fantasy series. So to open up with that, we're going to just start with the PlayStation 1 games. Because, after all, you could talk about Final Fantasy ad nauseum, but I think narrowing it down to the PlayStation 1 games should keep it relatively concise. And we're just going to follow a pretty simple format here. We're just going to talk about them in order. We're going to hit a few basic categories, and then maybe we can go into more depth. We'll see. But starting off, Final Fantasy VII. What do you think about Final Fantasy VII, Oz?
I think that Final Fantasy VII is probably the best of the three. I think that between, of course, we're speaking about Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII, and Final Fantasy IX. I don't have very much experience with Final Fantasy VIII. Final Fantasy IX, I've played near completion, but I don't believe that I've ever finished it. Final Fantasy VII, I've completed several times. I actually didn't play Final Fantasy VII first on the PlayStation 1. I played it on the PC. My brother bought it at, I think, Kmart or something like that, and he brought it.
That store still exists?
Yes, it does. Well, because it's owned by Sears.
Oh, right. Sears still exists?
Yes. But, because what would happen if Sears didn't... If we didn't have Sears, how would malls stay open? It's like a pillar store, you know? Fair
enough.
Why do stores outside of the internet exist anymore?
I don't understand.
Okay, we're not discussing that though.
Different podcast.
Yeah, maybe we'll discuss we'll discuss large scale economics later.
I did take a macroeconomics course. Clearly, I'm an expert.
Final Fantasy VII. It's a good game. I think it's probably my favorite of the three, just because it was probably my first foray into Final Fantasy in general.
So it does the nostalgia hit for you real hard.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I had never played one before this point, and so when my brother brought it home and installed it on our computer, I watched him play it a little bit, and then I remember that night, I woke up and I went downstairs and got on my parents' computer, and I played it. I played it all morning until about 5 o'clock, and then I went back to sleep so that my parents didn't know that I was staying up all night.
They knew.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure I left open the launcher or something.
Oh, that's right. PC had a launcher on it.
Oh yeah,
I forgot. Mm-hmm. Actually, the Steam version of it has a launcher too. I think.
Yes.
Or not Steam version of 7. Maybe. Probably.
It probably does.
I don't have 7 on Steam.
I'm sure it does because it probably has a pre-launcher for resolution and things like that. Because it doesn't have any of those it doesn't have those options in game. It wouldn't make any sense.
Well, I'm actually completely opposite of you. Final Fantasy VII is my hands-down least favorite of the 3 PlayStation games. And just because, and we'll get into the reasons for it pretty soon, but it was the last one that I played. I watched it when I was a kid and I didn't really get it. So when I finally got back to it as a teenager, I was just underwhelmed, wholeheartedly underwhelmed, especially after playing 8 and 9. And I don't like the main character. We'll get into that later. Actually, hell, let's get into that right now. Cloud. Right, shut up. Cloud Strife. I see your face. Cloud Strife is the most irritating protagonist of any video game I've ever played. He has 0 character development, and when I play an RPG, it's certainly not for the gameplay.
No.
It's for the character development, the story, the plot. And he has no character development. He starts the game as a whiny, emo, nothing. He's just stupid. And how does he end the game? Slightly more emo.
Yeah, actually, I think he does get worse as the game goes on. I think he gets... Because he becomes even more...
introverted.
He becomes even more furthered in his understanding of just how worthless he is, to be perfectly honest. He starts out actually pretty expert, oh, we got to get this done, and I'm a soldier, and I work for money. It's all about the money.
When
for me.
he's operating under the Zack delusion,
yeah,
then he's actually pretty effective and efficient. But as soon as he realizes that he is no one, he's completely useless.
Oh, absolutely.
So he has a negative story or character arc. He goes backwards.
He does. And that's my thing. I like Final Fantasy VII probably the best out of the three. And the thing about it is that the reason has nothing to do with Cloud. I could care less about Cloud.
It's Yuffie, isn't it?
No, I mean I do like Yuffie. Yuffie was that's one of the things actually. Yuffie's one of those characters where when you encountered her on the world map, which was in itself just a huge mind-blowing moment for me personally, because I'd never played a game like that before. You know, you start out, you're in Midgar, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is the setting of the game, and you play for a good few hours in Midgar.
That's probably like hour 6 or 7 by the time you're out there.
Yeah, and then you all of a sudden you have to escape from the Shinra building. You get this FMV. You do the game or whatever.
It's a pretty cool FMV too.
It is. It's amazing.
It's the bike FMV. That's sick.
Yeah, and the music is awesome. You fight that boss, and then at the end there's that cutscene, and then all of a sudden you're outside of Midgar, and they're like, "Okay, go to Calm Town," and you're like, "Wait, there's a map? What?" And I had never played a game where it like opens up like that. Where it's an open world map.
Yeah. Yep. And that's a pretty cool first experience for an MMO. Not an MMO, just an RPG in general. Right. And JRPGs do it so much better.
They do.
Or at least they used to. Let's not talk. We'll get to 13 in a bit, guys.
13, 15. I played the demo of 15. God.
Oh, yes.
They haven't learned.
Nope.
They haven't learned.
Favorite character in Final Fantasy VII?
That's tough. I really do like Yuffie. I actually left that thought hanging. Yuffie was one of those cool things because when you encountered her, she was a secret character.
That's right, she was.
And you didn't encounter her unless you went into those specific woods and you fought her, and then you had to talk to her afterwards and give her those specific instructions.
Now, does that mean that her entire village was an optional part of the game?
Yes.
Like all of the things that happened in her village?
Yeah, absolutely. You never had to go to Wutai.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I would never have known that because I had a strategy guide when I played through that game.
Exactly, yeah.
So there was no reason I wouldn't get Yuffie.
I remember printing it out on my parents' computer. They got so mad because it was like 70 pages.
Yeah.
And that was just for the side quests in that game. It was ridiculous.
I remember I had the world map for every Final Fantasy game pulled up and I traced it onto a piece of paper on the computer screen. And I was like, I should be a cartographer. I'm amazing at this. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Video game cartographer.
You have no idea what you're talking about.
Video game cartographer.
Okay. All right. So, sorry about that. We just had to pick up the phone for a second. But we are back, and we were just talking about my cartographer career, which I guess will probably never happen.
Yeah, the future. The future is now. Video game cartographers for the JRPGs.
Yeah. You know, it's an important job. Somebody's got to do it.
So, I never said who my favorite character was. So, Yuffie was an interesting character, but I would say probably... God, that's tough. I really like Sid.
Yeah.
Because I think he's an interesting character. His story is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really, really like Tifa, which is a dangerous thing to say on the internet.
Yeah.
But
somebody starts emailing you countless Tifa pics.
Oh yeah, it's the worst. But you know what? I'm gonna go with Tifa. I do really love her.
Okay. I'm gonna be the fanboy, and I'm gonna say Vincent.
That's okay. Vincent, because another secret character.
Yeah, another secret character, and it was a cool secret because the manor was a fun part of the game. It was a really fun part of the game.
Distinctly more difficult than getting Yuffie in your party.
Yes, it was. Jesus. Actually, no. It took me forever to figure out how to get Yuffie in my party.
Well, yeah, because it was a guessing game with her.
Yeah.
But for
Vincent, it was just go through and get him.
But for Vincent, you had to have a guide to do that because you had to know the combination for the lock.
That's true.
You had to be ready to fight the boss, who was actually really tough. What was his name? I think it was like the Lost One or Lost Number. Or
no idea.
Like that.
Lost Number sounds right though.
Yeah, he was hard, and then once you did that, and you were timed, it was just ridiculous.
What else? Also, I'm going to say this. Tifa doesn't have a video game spawned about her. Vincent got his own shooter.
That's true.
And I liked it. I mean, Now, like, when it came out, I hadn't played many shooters, so I liked it. Now, looking back, I can recognize a bad shooter when I see one. But at the time, I thought it was great. Alright, so moving on. Most memorable moment from Final Fantasy VII.
Probably beating Emerald Weapon for the first time.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's always a nightmare. Anybody who's ever beaten Emerald Weapon, I think there should be a special support group for anybody who's ever...
The post-traumatic stress from it.
It's true. It's really bad. Whenever you see a counter now in video games, you just freak out.
Ah!
I hate timed events in games.
The counter at the beginning of Final Fantasy VIII.
Yeah.
Wait, 20 minutes? What?
It's impossible. It can't be done.
Dude. My favorite was probably my first time I got the Golden Chocobo. Because, your crazy Chocobo eugenics program.
And then getting Knights of the Round.
Not getting it, seeing it.
Your first time one-shotting Safer Sephiroth with Knights of the Round. When everybody's like, all right, this is where the real fight begins, and you just go...
No, it's not. You're right. This is where the real fight begins. I'm going to make a sandwich. I'll wait till this animation's done.
Yeah.
Alright, that's memorable moments. How about, what is your favorite thing about the game?
God, I really like the characters, but I feel like the world is really the biggest thing.
It is a beautifully crafted world.
It's so good. Midgar in and of itself is just
there's a lot of detail
great.
in Midgar especially.
So good. The sections, I had never seen anything so... I'd never been really into the whole technological...
The whole cyberpunk type of world.
Yeah, and it was really neat to see that. The FMV, where it shows the train going around the giant pillar, was awesome.
And it's an interesting contrast, Midgar to the rest of the world. Midgar is very much a cyberpunk city.
Yeah.
The rest of the world, very rural and undeveloped.
And they build... The best part is that they build up... That establishes the idea that Shinra is, like, bad.
Yeah.
Like, they're not good.
Crazy evil mega corporation.
Yeah, they're industrializing everything, and you see it again in Junon and things like that. It's really interesting.
Least favorite thing?
Least favorite? I don't like the whole section where Cloud gets Mako poisoning.
Yeah.
It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
Although you do get to play as Tifa, which I did like, but losing Cloud after the game forces you to have him in your party the entire time.
It's kind of crippling.
It's bad. I don't like that.
My favorite thing was probably the crazy, what was it? There's like a mini game in it where you get Phoenix or something like that, and it's like a board game or a strategy war game where they're like, enemies I think are coming down several paths.
Oh yeah,
and
that's
trying to get up the path or something like that.
What is that called? Falcon Tower or something like that?
Yeah, it's something at Falcon Tower. And I just thought that was the coolest, most fun little interlude.
Oh, Fort Condor, I think.
Yeah, Fort Condor. You're right. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, that was cool.
A
lot of hidden
really
summons
cool
in that game.
Yep.
That was cool. I like that a lot.
My least favorite thing, I already said it.
Cloud
Strife. The worst character that has... I don't know if he's the worst character in any Final Fantasy game, but he's real bad. Real bad.
Yeah, he's definitely not the worst.
Alright. We're going to move on now to Final Fantasy VIII, mostly because we're eating up time talking about 7.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's not going to be much to say about 8 because I've never played it.
Well, then I will start talking about how I got into it.
Yeah.
The exact same story as that you had with 7. My mom bought 8 on the PC for my older brother Lyle.
Okay.
And I just sat there and watched him play it for hours. And I remember him fighting Diabolos, which is... Do you know who Diabolos is?
Yeah, I know who Diabolos is.
For those who don't, Diabolos is like a demon-like summon who manipulates gravity and time. And you get him by rubbing a lamp in that game that you get from Sid, actually. The Final Fantasy recurring characters. And out he comes, and then you fight him, you beat him, and you get him as a summon. But my brother lost that fight 3 times. And when I play it through now, I'm like, how did you lose this fight? It's so simple. Oh, it's so simple. But, yeah. I just played it when he wasn't able to.
Yeah, that's pretty much... That was the story. When you have older brothers...
You take what time on the games you can get.
That's right. I did the same thing with Kingdom Hearts.
That's how I got into EverQuest. Same thing.
Yeah. My brother got Kingdom Hearts for free from Blockbuster, actually.
Fantastic.
And he was playing it, and he actually left it running that night. And I came into his room, and because I heard the music, and I'm like, that sounds like Disney music. What is going on? And I went out there, and boy, that was like the start of the adventure of a lifetime. Game.
It's a real good game.
I love it.
But we're talking about topical because Squall in it, who is not my favorite protagonist in any Final Fantasy game, but definitely up there.
He's good.
Since we're just going to switch to characters, we're going to jump right to that.
That's fine.
Squall, great character. Irvine, one of my favorite characters.
Oh, yeah, he's awesome.
Mostly because he wears a trench coat. He wears a little duster, and that's my thing. I love dusters. I can't wear mine anymore, but I have one somewhere.
Selfie,
yep. In her little train song. She loves trains.
Quistis.
So, who's your favorite character?
From Final Fantasy VIII, just going off of just
the
pure
bit, the
looks.
little bit that you played.
I like. I want to say that I like Zell, but I don't because I know that he's stupid.
He is the monk of that game.
Oh, I know, but I also know that he's dumb, and I like smart characters.
He is real dumb, but he's got that wicked Mike Tyson face tat.
Yeah, what was that idea?
I have no idea.
I can only imagine that they were like, Micah Tyson.
Oh, Micah Tyson, big deer.
So they were like, yeah, we're gonna put a face tattoo on this guy.
Oh God, it was so bad.
No, I think.
But his ultimate, or not his ultimate, his limit break was so cool. It was combination punches, and it was like awesome. You just click the buttons, and it leads into the next in the chain of the combo. And some of them were really sick. And he had meteor, I think, or a meteor strike.
Probably. No, I'd say I like Renoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's probably one of my favorite female protagonists in any Final Fantasy game ever. She's strong-willed, stubborn, interesting. She doesn't have a stupid girly voice, although I shudder to think what they would do if they voice cast that game. I'm talking about Yuna and her very girly, wimpy, wispy voice.
Well, think about Advent Children in Final Fantasy VII. You get Tifa. Yeah. I love her voice. She's just, and then you hear Aerith speak, and you're like, oh.
Ugh. Yeah.
Like, okay, dilly-dally, shilly-shally.
Oh, God.
And you're like, all right, we get it.
Yeah, don't do that again.
That's the other thing. I want to go back to Final Fantasy VII. I'm sorry. But
go for it.
Tifa, the other reason that I like Tifa is because she's also kind of a really incredibly tragic character.
Yeah.
In that, she loves Cloud, but she just repeatedly lets go of him because he's in love with Aerith. And she has to repeatedly let him go,
and that doesn't get resolved until Advent Children, really.
No,
and even in Advent Children, it's
not
still
really
shaky.
because she still loves him. She still really loves him, and they were childhood friends, and everything else. And I can relate to that in some aspect.
Okay. Jumping back to 8, wherever we were. What were we on, characters?
Yeah, we had just finished characters.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, my favorite character again, Squall. Although now that I'm thinking about it, Wedge and Biggs in that game were fantastic.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, God. They're the most bumbling, stupid fools ever. Which, I mean, it's common for them. But they were just so ridiculously bad in this game. they're enemy soldiers who are teamed up together all the time. Oh, and you have to keep beating them. But each time you do, they're like, oh, damn. Oh, damn. It's a great little moment of levity in an otherwise pretty serious game.
It's like Final Fantasy X too, then, the two guys from that game.
Yeah.
What are those? Lago and... I can't remember. Ormi?
Yes.
Holy crap,
Lago
if I remember this.
That is correct. I think you got it. Lago and Ormi.
Somebody needs to fact check that. Leave a comment down below if you know.
Go ahead, please leave comments. Is it Lago and Ormi? If it is, we will give Oz a cheese ball. We do have a giant bucket of cheese balls here. All right.
Necessary to confirm that. All right, can we just... what's your favorite moment?
My favorite moment? Okay, it's very early in the game.
Uh-huh. And I might have done it then.
You might have done it. So after you beat Ifrit, you immediately go on your first seed mission. It's not really a mission. It is your final exam as a seed.
Right.
And it has an FMV that is stunning. It's Squall. Who's the main character of the game. He comes and he walks up onto the deck of this ship that they're riding to get in. It's like a combat transport that they're riding to get to this island. And it's just, the animation is gorgeous. The music is badass. It's got this cool moon reflection thing happening. Look it up. Final Fantasy VIII. Balam. No, not Balam. I don't remember. I think it's Balam Garden Test something. You'll find it if you just look those things up. Video. It is just the coolest moment. And it's actually what made me fall in love with Final Fantasy games.
That's good. I don't have a favorite moment because
I'm sure you don't.
Because I started playing it and I just and our mutual friend Bruno, he was telling me that he loves that game. It's his favorite Final Fantasy, I would say, probably.
Yeah.
And when I was playing, he's like, "Oh, just wait. You're going to love this. You're going to love this game." And I'm just playing it, and I just didn't fall in love with it. I just wasn't into it.
I mean, that's fair. But I am going to say my favorite thing about that game, the summon system. The summon system. So, in this game, it had a unique summon system where you would summon your creatures, and then you could... Like, that's typical. Like, you would summon your GFs or your Eidolons, whatever you want to call them. But then you could also, what was called junction. You could assign them to certain attributes of your character and make your character stronger like that. You could do the same thing with magic. And it was just an interesting way to control speccing out a character. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't like the junction system, but I feel like there was a lot of depth to it, and it made for a very... interesting gameplay experience, I thought.
People said the same thing about the sphere grid, though.
I do. I love the sphere grid, too.
Me too. I love that thing. It's great.
But now we're going to move on. Since we're just touching on 8 really briefly, we're going to hit 9. This is going to be the last one we talk about today. But it's probably my favorite out of all of the Final Fantasy games on the PlayStation 1. Not because it's the best, although it might be, but it is the most charming. The art style is absolutely stunning and gorgeous. There's a lot of detail in it. The music, Nobuo Uematsu does amazing work on it. What else do we got? There's a lot of reasons to love it. And
the characters, I think the art is the big thing for me because like that game harkened back to a time. I didn't play that game until after I played like Final Fantasy Tactics and stuff like that.
Oh, so it had that cartoonier.
And so coming back to playing Final Fantasy IX, I was like, oh, so this is kind of like in that world. And I played this game after Final Fantasy XII also. Yeah. So I was like, oh, this is kind of in that same wheelhouse. Right. You know?
Yeah, it feels like it.
And I was like, oh, so this makes sense. And you got charming characters. You got Vivi. You got...
Love Vivi!
Even, I loved even some of the supporting characters.
There's a lot of them to love. Beatrice was...
Like Blanc.
Yeah.
That dude is awesome. Mm-hmm. He is a badass.
He's a bro, is what he is.
He is. He's amazing.
What is her name? I think it's Beatrice. The Queen's Knight.
Yeah. She's amazing.
Her weapon saved the Queen.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I want. I want a replica of that weapon. It would be so gorgeous to have on a wall.
And that cool thing, her whole story with Steiner is awesome.
Yeah.
Even though
also,
Steiner's
when you find out, she was at all times many times stronger than your entire party.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, every time you fight her, she wins. You never beat her in that game.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder, could she have just beaten Kuja on her own?
Yeah.
Because she's ridiculous.
Yeah, she is. And it's cool, and I think that's an interesting thing how they split up the knights like that and everything.
Like the Knights of Pluto were completely useless.
Yeah,
that might be the best part of the opening to that game is just the Knights of Pluto. Just like Steiner running around, clank, 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 rusty armor and everything.
I think we can all agree, though. This is kind of skipping ahead, but I think we can all agree what the worst part of that game is, and the answer is Quina.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, now, I've actually talked to a lot of people about this, and they actually got a lot of good use out of Quina. Mm-hmm. But I never did. Like, it's not that it is a bad character. Quina's not a bad character, or at least as a party member. But there are so many more powerful, effective characters than Quina that it's really just easy to put it on the back burner.
Absolutely.
We're going to jump back now really quick. Who is your favorite character?
My favorite character in that game, can't remember his name. The guy with the red hair.
Amarant,
yes. Because you could rename all the characters in that game.
Yes, you could.
That's probably why I don't remember, because I probably gave them all custom names. Amarant, though, yeah, he's awesome. Yep. I love that guy.
He's really sick. He looks cool. I mean, he had dreads.
Yeah,
that was
which is awesome.
At the time.
That's right. Still cool.
1998, 1999, whatever that was.
Yeah, no, bar none, he's probably the best. He
was the monk of that game, I guess.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Well,
yeah,
that's what you're gonna go for.
Look, in case you haven't figured out the pattern here, He's big on characters that punch things with their fists.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Tifa, Zell.
Oh yeah, that's
Amaranth.
true. I did say Tifa, huh? See, and that's why I love her too. God, she's so good. And her big knee pad, her one knee pad.
Oh yeah, the one.
The one like big metal ass knee pad.
Can we just say this about Japanese RPGs? The art on the characters is always ridiculous.
It is.
The armor is never functional. It never makes any sense, but it still looks wicked.
And that's why I like it. Yeah, you know,
Yeah, it's unique.
I value characters the way they look. I value the way that they look very much.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And so Western RPGs, sometimes they just leave things to be desired when it comes to character design.
Very generic character designs. Like you look at BioWare games, a lot of the times characters are very generic looking.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't mean that the story's not good or that the characters themselves aren't interesting.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
they don't look interesting all the time.
Like Mass Effect was... it's so well written, but at the same time, all the characters kind of look indistinguishable. If you showed me a picture of Garrus and Saren next to each other,
you wouldn't, yeah.
I probably wouldn't be able to tell you which one's different.
Especially if it's been a while or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, that is to say first game Varys, not later game Varys. After he's got his destroyed face.
Yeah, right. Although, to be fair, Saren kind of had an issue with his face. Well, because he was part Geth. So, anyway, this isn't a Mass Effect podcast.
We'll get to Mass Effect 2 at a later date. Oh, believe you me, we'll touch on Mass Effect. Back to 9. My favorite character was probably Vivi.
Vivi's
Like,
cute.
hands up. He's just adorable. He's adorable and badass.
I would say he's probably the most beloved Final Fantasy character.
It's because he's Black Mage. He's
Yeah.
just a straight up Black Mage.
Oh,
but he's
yeah.
a cute Black Mage.
Absolutely. I'd say that he's probably the most beloved character. My wife loves Vivi.
Like, there's a reason he's my next tattoo.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, for those who don't know me, which is a lot of you, I'm getting a Final Fantasy sleeve made up, and I already have the first bit done. It's an etching of Griever from Final Fantasy VIII on my right bicep and deltoid, and on my right forearm, I'm going to have Vivi done up. And the only Final Fantasy game that's not going to make it onto my sleeve is 7, because to hell with that game.
What about 13? You're going to put 13 on there?
I don't like to acknowledge that thing exists.
Okay.
So moving on.
I was about to say, what the hell is wrong with you?
What is
You're
wrong?
gonna get a
I want a tattaoo of hope.
a back tattoo of Lightning's face
Oh yeah.
with sunglasses on from Lightning Returns. And it just says badass 100% underneath it.
You know somebody's done it too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Okay.
There's a fan fiction somewhere. It's being written right now as we speak. Fan fiction between you and Lightning.
Oh great. Thanks, bro.
I mean, I'd fuck her, but whatever.
Okay. Anyway.
Maybe we should cut that.
Oh no, it's staying.
No, we're not cutting that.
Memorable moments. What is your most memorable moment from Final Fantasy
9?
9?
Okay, so you said there was a cutscene in 8 that you really liked. I liked in 9, and particularly, this is where it gets interesting, because I borrowed this game from you.
That's right,
to
you
play.
did.
And here's the thing. Your copy, kind of a piece of shit. And
Dude, I had the worst luck with PlayStation 1 games. Always skipping. I had 3 copies of Final Fantasy VIII. They all skipped in the exact same cutscene. Drove me nuts.
So there's a cutscene in 9 where you're on the ship and you're riding, and the Black Mage number 2 attacks you. And I was like...
Black Waltz.
Black Waltz number 2. And I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, this is amazing. And then he shows up, and he's flying in, and everything looks awesome, and then it just freezes. And I'm like, oh no. I don't remember when I saved last. So I go back, reload the game, start it up, whole cutscene's playing. I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. This cutscene's amazing. Freezes in the same spot. And I'm like, no! Come on! Stop! And, so that cutscene, I still think, even though it froze, and I watched it like 5 times, that cutscene was still probably the best thing.
It was. I was actually thinking of the exact same cutscene that you are when they're flying through the gates and they're closing, and then the Black Waltz finally just smashes into one of them.
Yeah.
Fucking epic.
That one, and probably the entire ice cave, just because I like the way that it looked.
Yeah, that was pretty. My other one is probably going to be the Clara sandstorm.
Yeah.
The tornado around the city or the town of Clara. That was really pretty.
Oh, dude, how did we not talk about...
Bahamut's attack?
No. How did we not talk about Freya?
Ooh, very good.
How did we forget about Freya?
So, yeah.
I love her.
And we're talking Dragon Knights here, too.
Yeah.
Or Dragoons. more properly Dragoons.
Mm-hmm.
Because Dragoons are an actual class that exists. Dragon Knight was just something that got made up for Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah.
So, people who play Final Fantasy don't or might remember this class. And if you do, well, you played Final Fantasy. If you don't, quick explanation. Dragoons are lancers. That is to say, they wield a lance. They don't ride a horse or anything like that. They just wield a lance. And their iconic ability is just to jump. They jump up into the air, which means they can't be targeted for a turn. And then they come back down the next turn, and they do massive damage with that lance thrust.
And I think that started in 4. Right?
I'm not sure.
Final Fantasy 4? I think so, because that started with Kain.
Yeah, my experience with the earlier Final Fantasy games is shaky. I mean, I played them. I haven't beaten all of them.
Yeah.
I played all of them.
I sat down and made a concerted effort to beat all of them a couple of years ago. Yeah. Because I had nothing else to do.
Fair enough. Like, if you've got nothing else to do, playing through Final Fantasy games is not the worst thing you could do.
Final Fantasy 4 is good, though. It's a good time to do it now as well, because there's been so many remakes of the original games that makes them more accessible, makes them look better.
A little bit more playable.
Exactly. Yeah, because, like, the original Final Fantasy, in its regular form, is just a nightmare. Yep. You have no idea where you're going. You have no idea what you're doing. Final Fantasy 2, that is to say Final Fantasy 2, not Final Fantasy 4, is the most broken game of all time. Because I don't know if you know anything about this game, Evan, but like in Final Fantasy 2, you have to exercise a stat in order to increase it, and that includes your HP. So you have to take damage intentionally in order to get your HP to go up.
That's the worst.
It's ridiculous. It's insane.
Tedious and hard.
Yeah, it was really bad. That's why when Final Fantasy 2 came to America, it was actually Final Fantasy 4.
Right.
Because it was kind of like a Mario 2 situation with Doki Doki Panic and everything like that.
All right. So we're going to wrap up Final Fantasy IX now.
Yep.
Favorite thing?
My favorite thing, the art.
The art?
No question. The art, just watching that intro cutscene with Vivi walking around in the one town there.
Cute little Vivi!
That whole scene is just... It set the tone with that art, and it's so beautiful.
And I agree with you wholeheartedly. That is my favorite thing about the whole game.
It looks like all of it was like hand painted. It's unbelievable.
You're right. It's stunning, and I want to play the game again now. Just
right?
Thinking about it.
I had it on my PlayStation 3, but now I have my PlayStation 4, and it's a piece of crap, and I can't do anything.
Hey, 10 and 10 2 are coming back out for PlayStation 4.
It's already out, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, I believe so.
I might have to get it now. Least favorite thing about the game?
Least favorite thing? We talked about this actually earlier when we were at lunch. Yeah, probably the ending. Ozma.
It wasn't Ozma.
I still don't like Ozma.
His name, yeah, that's true. I don't like Ozma either. But the worst thing about it was the story ending, which was the final boss. His name is Necros or Necron. He has no ties to any other part of the video game. At no point in that game is he mentioned, referenced. There's like no pictures of him anywhere until the very end. He just shows up out of nowhere and he's like, I am like Destroyer of Worlds, man. And they're like, oh, okay, bro, that's cool. You're going to fight me. And I'm like, yes, I am. Just give me a second to like process what the hell you are.
Yeah, give me a second to realize what's happening right now.
Yeah, because you don't belong in this game. You belong in Crystal Chronicles. You got put in the wrong game.
Crystal Chronicles. Oh, boy.
But
was that a PlayStation? No,
that was GameCube.
Wow.
Thank God, because I didn't own a GameCube, so I didn't have to play it.
Hey, that game was okay when you weren't playing co-op. Which sucks, because I think that's the only game that actually suffered when you played co-op. Like, that's the only game that was worse when you played co-op.
Oh, God.
It's so bad, because...
Did 9 have co-op? People kept saying it had co-op.
No.
Like, in the battles.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think so either.
See, that's one thing... That's why I like Tales better, because it has that co-op...
A functional co-op system.
It has the co-op, and that's what makes that game so fun, because especially for people like my wife, who are... who don't care about story at all, like zero care about the story.
Oh, Nikki.
They'll skip all the cutscenes or whatever. She'll skip all the cutscenes, but instead, with me playing the game, I play the story because I'm interested in the story. Yeah. And then when the battle comes around, she goes, "Okay," and picks up her controller.
So, how many of the quests in World of Warcraft did Nikki actually read?
Oh, does anybody read those?
I mean,
I don't think anybody reads those.
I read a few.
Like I did, I have. This is getting way off topic. This is where we're gonna finish it right here on WoW. How's this? Yeah. No, in WoW, I did Lore Master, but if I know anything that's going on in the game. I have no idea. Although I haven't played in 2 expansions, so whatever.
Fair enough.
Final Fantasy was just as bad, though. My wife, Final Fantasy 14, my wife skipped every
Jumping
single
back to
cutscene.
Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Ahead in our timeline a little bit.
I had a little bit.
A little bit.
Final Fantasy 14, she skipped every single cutscene. She never watched one.
I mean, I don't blame her, but...
The opening cutscene of that game, oh my god!
Gorgeous.
It blows my mind.
Well done, gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't do much to explain the plot, but...
Well, I mean, it explains how they made the transition from the original version to the...
Yeah, but that's only if you knew what the original version was, and we don't acknowledge that.
Yeah, no kidding.
Unless you played it, you don't acknowledge it.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway, we're going to jump back to Final Fantasy IX. And actually, I guess we're not. We completely covered what we wanted to cover.
No, that's it. We're good.
All right, so I guess we're going to call it here. This has been our first attempt at a podcast. If you have any comments on it or any suggestions, by all means, leave them in the comment section below. We're also going to be putting this not just on YouTube, but on Soundcloud. Might go on iTunes. I don't want to put iTunes on my computer. That's my big resistance to this, because I don't want to convert all my audio files, and that's what iTunes does.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a dark, evil creature. It's like a virus, honestly. Anyway.
Apple in general.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
RIP Apple users.
Anyway, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be trying to make this a bi-weekly thing, so tune in 2 weeks or so, and we should have another one up. I think next thing on our schedule is... we're
going to be talking about MMOs, baby.
Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's finish up Final Fantasy. We'll do the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 4 games.
The PlayStation 2, PlayStation 4 games. Yeah, like, God, I can't decide what's worse, Final Fantasy 13 or Final Fantasy 15.
Oh, well, we'll talk about it next time.
We will.
Have a good day, everybody.